Great. So thanks for everybody to join today. We have Sarah Young and we've got Sarah Cooke, actually, two people from Inspire Education Group, which is fantastic. It's good to have you joining today. Really appreciate it. We know how busy everybody is in further education. I mean, you have been clients of Purlos for a while, and I think it's quite important just to kind of highlight that, you've been using both our products, but you've seen some success, but it's all about positioning what the potential is of improving the whole admissions process. And it's not just looking at one piece of technology, it's looking at that whole process. But I'm David, I'm CEO and co-founder of Purlos. I'll give a very brief overview to Purlos and then I'll hand over to more interesting people, Sarah and Sarah. So, yeah, Purlos has been running a couple of years. We have Martin Dole as our one of our chief advisors, used to be the CEO of the AOC. And we just brought on Rob Bristow, who left Pearson, as their CEO as well. And over the last 2 years, we created 2 software products for the further education industry specifically. One's called Purlos Convert and one's called Purlos Destinations. Today, we're talking more about the, just letting somebody else in, more about the Convert side of things, because admissions is coming up pretty quick. So the idea of that product is to increase revenue for clients by reducing dropout during the admissions process and the 6-week period. And in terms of the product itself, what we've created is a human-backed digital assistant, which connects to applicants through WhatsApp rather than email and phone, which is getting less effective. And then we give our clients, the admissions teams normally, access to a web-based platform to allow them to see which students are at risk of dropping out and why. And we use AI to do that. So that's a brief overview. It'd be great to get a brief overview, Sarah and Sarah, of your experience with Purlos, but just your roles and what you're bothered about this year, really, to do with admissions. That's the main thing.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Young. I'm the Vice Principal for Student and Staff Experience, part of the Inspire Education Group, which comprises of Stamford College, Peterborough College, and also the University Centre Peterborough. So we actually merged as an organisation back in August 2020. And so, therefore, over the last sort of 18 months, we've gone through a real period of reviewing all of our current systems, processes, practices, so that we can look at not what was Peterborough, what was Stamford, but move forward with an IEG way, ultimately ensuring that we can be far more efficient as a group. And my particular role involves marketing, but also the whole recruitment, admissions, wellbeing, student services, support. So, it's that sort of wrap around everything outside the classroom, really. So we were really excited when there was an opportunity to consider Perlos. For me, it's very much about how do we relate and engage with young people. And therefore we committed as an exec level to look at investing in Purlos from last summer or the back end of the summer, to be able to enable us to look at a different way through the use of technology that we could help support our recruitment. I think it's fair to say both colleges are very different. Peterborough is a city college, Stamford is more rural, so therefore the demographics and the type of our students are very different. And we've started to see that also in perhaps just the way in which they've engaged with some of the different campaigns that we've done and their responses.
Yeah, that's interesting, that, Sarah. Actually, how do you see the differences between rural and city-based students?
I think, and Sarah will probably come in here, the demographics, and we've got a far higher proportion of students at Peterborough, haven't we, Sarah, that come from very diverse in terms of their cultures, backgrounds, ethnicity, the way in which they perhaps like to engage with the services, the traditional face-to-face paper application forms, where Stamford was different. And actually, in some of, when I share with you some of the risk campaigns that we've done, the type of barriers that came out were very different. Transport, as an example, was a barrier to engaging and recruiting at Stamford, because over 70% of our students access college transport, and from maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. In a city, it's very different. There's wide public transport for access, so that wasn't necessarily a factor for them not wanting to choose Peterborough.
Travel is more of an issue for rural students in general for you, you'd say. I think we've seen that across the country. We've seen more competition for city-based colleges. So they've got to be faster in terms of responses. And then for rural colleges, things like travel, always a big issue. I had a chat with the colleges in Belfast, actually. Sorry, not in Belfast, in Northern Ireland. And the colleges that are out in the sticks, sometimes they don't even go to college just because they can't afford it or because it is too long a bus route. So it causes big issues over there. And Sarah, welcome to you as well. Thanks for joining. You're the person who got you both in. Do you want to give everybody an overview of your role, how you help Sarah, and what, as a kind of user level, what are you bothered about?
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Cooke, and I'm responsible for student recruitment and financial support across both Peterborough and Stamford colleges. And I've got involved with Purlos, and I'm probably the main contact with Purlos for both colleges now. And so far, it's been working really well with us, and students tend to respond better for text messaging. It's like they're texting their mates. So we've had a good experience so far. And like Sarah said, the demographics of the students are completely different. A lot of our students in Peterborough do actually want to come and speak to us. But they're also using WhatsApp and texting now more to engage with us, as well as the traditional routes. I've only been new in role for about 3 weeks now, so I don't really know Stamford that well, but yeah, it's all going good.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sarah. That's great. I was talking to Sarah Young a little while back, and I've talked to a few clients about this. Having Perlis and software is great, having tech is great. I went to the NAMS event and the JISC event over the last couple of weeks, and typical thing is, fatigue from too many systems. We really want one system to rule them all, which is, to be honest, never going to happen. But there's not a lot of time for a lot of staff to do a lot of things, basically, especially in FE, higher education, schools. What kind of, I don't know, Sarah, have you worked in FE before, Sarah Cooke? Were you? You're on mute.
Yes, I've actually been working at Peterborough predominantly for the past 18 years, so I'm well averse to FE. It's just now I was in marketing and student recruitment, so I'm just focusing now on student recruitment and financial support for the group.
So I guess this is a good question for both of you, but what non-tech methods have you been thinking of or using to drive either marketing or conversions?
I mean, we've been doing the traditional, and it's great now that we're getting back to normal. We've been doing the traditional open days, the school visits, we've done tours, we do personalised birthday cards, etc., which all still work. We've noticed that the open events and school visits are really the best methods to actually get applications in and converting them, getting them through the door and actually looking at the facilities. But again, we've done because of COVID, we had to do 360 tours very quickly. So they can actually see it online now. So it's a mix of both tech and traditional now, because the tours are really popular online. So that is the way that the students do like to engage with us.
Yeah, that's great that you pivoted to do that so quickly. I think I've heard that a few times from colleges. It's that relationship with the school. Sarah Young, I don't know how did you manage the fact that some of the schools, teacher supposedly inflated teacher assessed grades, some of the sixth forms finding it easier to hold on to some of the students. And obviously during COVID, you couldn't go into some of the colleges. How did you kind of manage that?
Yeah, I mean, we used it actually as an opportunity, and so for us, we rather than actually going into the schools, we zoomed in. So we were still able to host a range of different presentations and engagement activities with young people. We've got over 80, I think it's about 95 feeder schools actually across the group, very positive relationships. And I think that's where we did put a lot of our energy and efforts, was really working working with the heads of schools, working with the careers advisors to ensure that we could continue to offer that wide advice and guidance. So we developed, videos that really showcased the offer of the group. We had developed sort of a Mythbuster activity, which really allowed us to take a lot of the, I suppose, the apprehensions and anxieties that young people face, and we turned that into a bit of an engagement game with them, so that we could try to alleviate some of those worries, particularly because a number of them hadn't been able to come onto campus to experience open events. So we just saw it as an opportunity to try to be more creative. And some of those things we've continued with, actually, in order to just offer a broader service to support, our young people. So it has worked. We also tried, which a number of colleges have, I know, the online Meet the Tutor events, parents events. We didn't find they were particularly successful. But as Sarah said, where we did invest was our 360 virtual tours, and you can see the hit rate on those. And, that has served us very well during lockdown and continues to. So that's for this further work, I think, for us around the development of the website platform to offer that whole 24/7, engagement.
Yeah, I think that's great. I guess over the last year, what we saw at Perlis is, firstly, we saw anxiety and stress being a risk driver. It was the 7th biggest risk driver. It went up to 3rd, just below course selection and the college choice. But you're saying that you did some virtual online tours, which some colleges have done, and they were effective. And there's a big kind of wants and need of a lot of colleges we speak to get back face to face with the students. But I always think, what did colleges learn from the pandemic they can keep, or what can they think about in terms of scaling something digitally when they haven't got enough staff to manage everybody that they could take on? Things like, maybe FaceTime interviews or things like that. But it's good that you're doing virtual tours and they've been working. Things
like, the live chat function has worked really well, which is available, again, with a number of colleges. But we certainly found that through, using Purlos and different types of campaigns, one of the ways, just going back to time saving, through the setup that we did with your team, it allowed us to look at all of those FAQs, and we fed them into the bot, to Perlos, and therefore that actually supported, because it meant there was less traffic coming through on the phone lines, general queries that may be, how do I report an absence, because we'd already provided a number of those most frequently asked questions, in which Jenny the bot was able to engage with our students in that way and respond. So that did help.
Yeah, that's good. We now productize the knowledge base. I don't think a lot of colleges that are on this call probably don't understand that we're a human-backed digital assistant. And what we do is we automate. We've logged thousands of easy to answer questions, so that the students can get a really quick answer from our bot. But our humans on Perlos, they will jump on for any more complex queries, and they come across as the student services member from Inspire Group to answer those more complex queries. But that's only to 80 to 90% of the queries they'll answer, and the remaining 10 to 20% is actually your team answering them. Sarah, I think that's kind of just worth highlighting. I'll keep things generally quick and sharp. It's supposed to be a micro survey. So number one, I'm just going to do a quick interactive survey. Never done this before, so fingers crossed, see how it works. And then just going to talk about the student journey and how to optimize it, how we look at it. And then we'll look at a couple of just 1 or 2 quick examples of messages. And then talk about messaging tailoring. So I do have my marketing person on the call. So if you can just share his screen, that'd be good. See if this works. Okay, so yeah, if you can share your screen, Barry, that'd be great. Okay, I have to enable sharing supposedly. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that should be okay. Smooth transition. So if you could all just go to menti.com, that'd be great. So supposed to be pretty simple. Let's see how it works. You just go to menti.com. It's MENTI.com, and then you type in that code. every time a question comes up, we give you 30 seconds or so. We've got 4 questions, and then basically you press submit. So I'll give everybody kind of 30 seconds to go. I'll probably ask Sarah a question just while that happens. Okay, people are already on it. Great. So yeah, fire away. You can answer this question. I will give you 30 seconds. I'll have a chat with Sarah for 30 seconds or a minute. Just make sure you enter the code. The code's at the top. It's 47281733. I would ask you now this question, Sarah, but you don't want to influence answers. One thing I would ask Sarah, big trends, we look at kind of automation, and I guess in education, teachers don't want to automate everything. They like that human touch, but in the next 5 years for HE and FE, there's going to be a lot more students. There's another 90,000 extra students in the 16 to 19-year-old demographic predicted, and that's from the Office of National Statistics and the AUC report. Based on how busy admissions teams are, how do you kind of see that playing out in terms of being able to manage that increased volume? And have you thought about that at all?
I think, yeah, no doubt. I think it will stretch admissions and IAG, you know, which is why I think we're constantly having to look at ways in which we can streamline and more efficiency. There will be the demands around the advice and guidance, you know, and how we support adults and young people that's coming through. So I think the work we do with schools will continue to be really important. We're perhaps going to have to look at different types of events that we put on to reach out, you know, more to the increased demand of adult learners, and what we do and how we sort of, you know, put together the offer for adults. So I think certainly we need to be creative and look at ways that will support. Sarah, I don't know if you have a view on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ways that we're going to probably do it going forward is a lot more automation of our current systems. At the minute, it is we're in that in-between situation where, you know, you've got paper-based, you've got online, but it's actually the process behind it. You know, we found out that we could do a lot more things when we were in lockdown because we had to. So now it's about actually implementing them as the way forward, and automation is key for us now.
Yeah, great. That's good. It's good to see the forward thinkingness of it. So this question, I'm surprised by the answers, but I did answer this question as well. I put very in it. That is not the answer that I was expecting. So how confident are you in your college's ability to accurately forecast enrolment numbers in September? I don't know what you think, Sarah, but all the colleges I spoke to aren't very, very confident. It's because it's very hard to be confident. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to your point previously. We're certainly finding schools are far more competitive, more aggressive. You know, they're wanting to retain their young people. We use historical data as everybody else does through that curriculum plan process. We try, but you know, it's about conversion at the end of the day. So we are using application data over a 3-year period. We're using enrolment data, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not an exact science, I guess.
No, it's not.
It's just like us trying to figure out why students drop out. We have quite a lot more data than a lot of our colleges did, but it's not always perfect. And also, if you're asking the student, it's like when people are using our destination system. Sometimes you have to ask a student, are you still in this job? What sector are you in? And you know, the student doesn't always have the perfect answer either. And you can never get through to 100% of students. And what about this? Last year, we saw a big increase in applications for all the colleges, but the big city colleges, that's what we saw. But what did you see?
Actually, this year we have seen an increase in applications, and we think part of that is because, you know, we've been able to reopen up our doors and have access to open events and those sort of some of those traditional marketing engagement activities. So our applications across the group are up by around 600, I believe, aren't they, Sarah, this year?
Yeah, I'm just having a look now. Yeah, but it was about 600 last week.
Yeah.
And how kind of skeptical, because last year what we saw is a big increase in applicants, everybody but London and Manchester-based colleges in general, but then the early thought that they might all turn into enrolments, but then the late kind of thought that they might not do because of the assessed grades.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about it this year based on that? pattern from last year?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally our conversion rate is around 65%, 65% for the group, but A levels is only 35 because we've got such strong competition from grammar schools and sixth forms. So, you know, I'm very aware of that, and we have certainly seen the increase in A-level applications, but I'm not comforted by that because, you know, we do a lot of work, but sadly, we are sometimes that second choice. We are that safety choice for them, so they will apply to the college with the hope. And given the trend of last year, we definitely saw that they were offered, the grammar schools retained far more young people than they would have previously.
Yeah, these answers look a little bit more normal. Are you worried about how speculative the applications are? And we tell our colleges that they should be. Just need more data, better communication systems to find out more information earlier. And that's helped a lot of clients. Okay, great. Last question. This is kind of a free word question. You probably haven't managed to pop on this system, but in terms of struggling with measuring ROI, you buy a system, you buy a service, you know, I remember Martin Dole talked about the golden ratio that you need X amount of your fixed costs, staff, and you need X number of students in each class to be profitable. So where do you, it might be specific to your area, Sarah, but where do you think you or the college might struggle to measure ROI? Or is it nowhere or everywhere?
Yeah, good question. You know, David, I'm not sure how we do that particularly well. I think, you know, there's always the value of a learner, but actually depending what stage of the application journey they're at and where they are, I think we've never perhaps looked at that in real detail. You know, so, yeah, marketing is on there, and Sarah, you may want to come in and sort of add to that. But we can only use, for us, it's looking at far more engagement, conversion. We've used different systems to support, but I'm not sure we've really got that right yet.
No, I think there's more work to do, and I think what we've started doing now is tracking from the first point of engagement. So whether that be at a school visit, whether that be they attend an open day, and it's to track that through to application, through to enrolment, through to after the first 6 weeks. So we're starting to do a lot of work on that. That's the only way that we can tell if, you know, if an open day is working. If 50% who attended an open day actually are still with us after the first 6 weeks, we know that the return on investment was worth it. So, but, you know, it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Yeah, everything worth doing is hard, right?
Yeah, but it is something that we do need to improve on as a college group.
Yeah, I mean, we get quite a few clients looking at that area in quite a lot of detail. I'm just going to go on to optimizing the student journey, because this is kind of the way that we're looking at it now. And I don't know if you've heard of the nudge theory, Sarah. You probably have if you've heard any babbling from me, but a lot of universities in America do it. This changes per college, but this is a typical kind of college process in terms of applied. We use the past version of the word. So once the student has applied instead of application, but applied, interviewed, offered, accepted, enrolled, inducted, converted, or retained, however you call it, the 6 week point is pretty important, especially to the finance directors. Is that similar to what you look at? Will you change anything in them?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much that whole journey that we would follow. The differences around interview, you know, we've looked at how we use that, and we had moved towards, during lockdown, conditional offers for young people, and I suppose one of the balances was around workload for staff, and can we utilize their time differently. So rather than interviewing groups traditionally an hour a week, we've sort of moved more from applied to a conditional offer, and that time that we've used for interviews, we've plugged that differently. So we've had different types of keep warm activities and engagement where we're using curriculum staff to help us hook. So, but otherwise, yeah, that journey for us is how we would work.
Yeah, I think colleges do the interview staging slightly differently in a few areas. This is aggregated data from all of the campaigns sent last year for the colleges. Not surprising, you get a big increase in activity for GCSE results day, trying to connect with the students straight after they get the results, sending them positive message. A-levels, start of term, activity goes way down. All of the staff are looking at the students actually in the college and don't have as much time to send digital campaigns. Some of our most effective colleges last year didn't start what most colleges did, and most colleges started their campaigns early in the 6-week period to try and make sure as few and the smallest number of students dropped out as possible. But most of the colleges that did even better, they doubled up on the campaigns in the last 3 months up to end of September. So twice as many campaigns. So we don't want to spam students with so much activity, but with email, phone, WhatsApp, you can double down at the key points where they're actually interested to see some information, like, where's my timetable? Well, we haven't got it yet, but you will have it between X and X time. That kind of question used to go and answered a lot. And also what happens is colleges do slightly better if they actually send out campaigns earlier in the process. So be organized in the process. So 6-week dropout, there's a lot of questions around being on the right course and having high anxiety levels or stress anxiety levels. But if colleges were messaging a couple of weeks before the 6-week period, that was actually helping quite a lot. There's something, I can't remember what the disgraced health secretary was called, but he was talking on the radio yesterday about dyslexia, and 1 in 5 people go unfounded with it until university. We did a message for West Nottinghamshire College, which looked at saying 1 to 9, what disability have you got for ALS students, additional learning support students, dyslexia, dyspraxia, whatever it would be. And we highlighted 74% of the students actually needed more help with those areas. If you come in with severe dyslexia and nobody knows for 5 weeks, can increase the risk level. But looking back at this, so the journey like that, those stages, this is kind of how we're starting to look at it. And let's see if I can just decrease the window there. So nudge messages, nudging students when they want to be nudged. Applied application. For BMET, we had 31% of their non-finished applications finish them off in 3 days. And when they did it by email, it was very ineffective. So that's, we're mopping enough people that wanted to start the process up. Events, I'll show you an example from our RN group in a bit there. But events and interviews are probably the 2 areas of big activity that go on for months and months. So can we improve the effectiveness of those? Once somebody actually has filled out an application, how skeptical are you about those applicants, especially based on that survey that maybe we should be more? A lot of colleges we speak to either expect them to turn up on September the 1st, or they'll keep ringing them and wasting potentially quite a lot of time when the phone is becoming less effective. So maybe asking them, we did this for Bradford College. We sent out a survey saying, here's the 6 local competitors, which is your top choice, which is quite a confident thing to do. It can worry you, but you get a better idea of what kind of level of warmth your applicants are. Are you on the right course? Course selection is only just the second biggest risk driver, reason for dropout. So we send messages to students around that. And sometimes, I think we've done this for you, Sarah, but for other colleges, we flow them on to the careers advisors, because we're not AIG certified, but we'll flow them on to somebody with professional expertise, if you like. And then things like enrolment nudges. So I would say enrolment nudges and induction nudges are probably some of the most impactful ones. I'll show you an example in a bit. We saved 66 students out of 125 that had withdrawn from Newham College. But that's after they've withdrawn. I don't know what dropout is like for you, and I don't want to go into too much detail around it, Sarah, but most colleges I speak to, they get some form of dropout, start a term.
We do, and actually our first sort of campaign with Perlos was last September when we launched the sort of enrolment campaign, and I think we had some really interesting results. I think also because we were still online at that point with our enrolment approach and we didn't have face-to-face, you know, that their initial response when we pushed the campaign out is, yes, I still want to enrol, I've already enrolled, or no, I don't. And the ones that had indicated, yes, I still want to enrol, what we found that some of them didn't necessarily have the information that we'd sent to them previously. But I know there was around 23 students that we turned around from that point, which we may not have been able to pick up previously. And I also found that I think the reasons I mentioned before, the demographics, you know, for Peterborough, it was very much around, well, I've decided to change my course or my thoughts around my career as the top reasons for withdrawing their application and not enrolling with us.
Oh, really?
Where for Stanford, it was top number one was all around transport. And therefore, because we're further to travel, further to get to, perhaps they decided, actually, I'm going to stay locally for me because I don't have to do an hour a day or an hour and a half, you know, to get to college.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering whether that means that you communicate more about what your travel options are, or whether when somebody says travel is their biggest issue, that you know they've got a much higher likeliness of dropping out, so you focus on other students more. It's kind of interesting. I guess it'd be interesting from your side, because what we do with Perlos is we, let's see if I can show you, we've just created this feature a couple of months ago. You've probably seen this, but most colleges are using it. The biggest issue that colleges had with us last year is that they didn't have as much time as they would need to set up these campaigns and then send them out off the cuff. So this is a roadmap for messaging. For every month you can pre-set up, and we can fill this out 80 to 90% with our own messages that we know that work, but pre-set them up pretty much at the start of the year. And you can set things up later in the year, but if you could set it up all at the start of the year, that would be, and it seems to be, a lot easier. And then all of our clients get an email. They get an email a week before the campaign needs to go out, and then they can send the data out, download the data into the campaign, and go away with it. But in terms of yourselves over there, in terms of when you send messages, do you see any kind of peaks and troughs? I guess, you know, most of the staff probably aren't there after 5:30, but when do you kind of set your campaigns up? When do you send them out? Do you find any times that effective?
We've trialled different times, and because the knowledge base is actually relatively new, isn't it, as a function? So we've worked a lot with Alice on getting our campaigns out before. We're going to use it a bit differently going forward. So after an open day, for example, we're going to do a campaign to say, thanks for attending, and can we help you any further to put in an application, or something along them lines. Yeah. So we're going to do it after key events in the college calendar, as well as following up on them applications that haven't enrolled, or you know, reminding them about financial support, reminding them about transport. But we're going to do it probably no more than between 4 to 6 weeks of an interaction with a learner. I think 4 is probably too much, but 6 would be a nice number to go on to be interacting with them.
Yeah.
We also found, David, when we went live with our enrolment campaign, we hit that on a Monday because we felt it was really important that there would be, you know, staff available in the college to deal with any queries coming in. And when we saw the numbers of engagement, the highest volume were in the first 2 days, having sent that first message out. Okay. So that Monday, Tuesday is where we had the biggest number of returns. So you know, that's just something that we found worked for us.
Yeah, that's interesting. We've seen different kind of times of day being effective, but usually it's a little bit unique to the college. Sarah, Cooke, I don't know. So you've got WhatsApp, you've got Purlos, but you've got email, you've got phone, you've got text. Our system was made for 16 to 19-year-olds. We are testing with a few colleges on the 19+ group, but you've got HE students, you've got other groups of students. How do you kind of change the way that you communicate with different groups, or do you?
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, like, I'm just trying to think of some examples. So So if it was 19 plus, so if it was adults, for example, you know, we would be pushing out a variety of messages about probably not texting for adults. They like the more traditional letter or email with the more information, so they go to one place. If we do text them, it'll be directing them to a link on the website where there's further information, because obviously with HE students the information's more complex, rather than just, you know, they need to know about funding, you know, loans, etc. Whereas at 16 to 18 it is just about the application and their first day of term really, and their timetable. That's what they're concerned about. So a text for them works really well, online platforms, but the traditional method is for adults and HE.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to solve this problem for a while, but the truth of it is that even these, you know, multi-billion-dollar tech companies, they want personalization at scale. You know, if Microsoft could have hyper-personalization for millions and millions of their users, that'd be great. But it is very difficult to get that for everybody. So our suggestions normally are personalize a little bit with the easiest areas of impact. We tailor messages for adults compared to 16 to 19s by kind of changing the tone, professionalizing. I'd say that probably a big area. Sarah, you're nodding your head, so.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
50 emojis to a 40-year-old degree student isn't going to work. But yeah, we're nearly finished. Just a couple of examples of messages just before we finish. So this is one we actually had a 98% increase in turn up at Taster Days for R&M. That is, I would say, our best achievement for events. It's not like that normally, get more of an average rating, but it has helped with events quite a lot, which is quite important. It definitely helped with virtual events. So in terms of and we actually have a lot of people looking at our website at our events and blogs and articles. So people are bothered about events. It's obviously one of the biggest funnels into college. So we do two things. We help everybody that is registered send out reminders through WhatsApp, which gets through to more people to make sure that they know that the event is on. And we can also be quite creative. Did quite a lot of things for R&M Group around I think Colleges Week and National Apprenticeships Week, for National Careers Week, I think, as well. We're asking students what their perfect career would be, and they were coming back with so many different answers, but it was starting to get them to think about what course they actually really wanted to do. But this is an example, and it's just a 1, 2, or 3. And they just had to pick that, and it was pretty easy. This is the example I was talking about earlier. So with Newham College, they did one message to 125 withdrawn students, and this was pretty much the message. We did a couple of follow-ups after this, which were automated. But from 125 people, 66 got back and came into the college, and all of them actually had stayed past the 6-week period, which is kind of critical for funding. And sometimes after they did interviews with these students afterwards, it was just the fact that they hadn't actually known it was on the day. They were a bit disorganized. They didn't see an email. So, yeah, it was a bit sad, really, that, you know, there's probably students that wanted to go to college, but just didn't get around to it, didn't have the right information. And then, yeah, this is the last slide. So just talking about tailoring, we actually set up a whole messaging framework for our own messaging. And I guess that looks at what your college vision is, rather than just trying to get bums on seats. Like, how do you differentiate yourself? That's the key to strategy. And we've been looking at strategy for a couple of years. What differentiates you? And talking to every college, they say, well, we're different because of X, Y, and Z. But I would say important is differentiating, but also having alignment. So how do you differentiate, not just in one message or not just in your logo or what you say about yourselves, but every little, you know, behavior and action of everybody within the organization? That basically is what makes up your brand. So what is your brand and what is your brand promise at the top? What does your college stand for? And how does that flow down into different messaging pillars for different segments of students at different times? Then there's the channel. So, you know, we're on WhatsApp. I would say it's the best comms channel in the country at the moment, but it's not going to replace email and phone and text. I think you need omni-channel, but you always need to be ahead of the curve. If you look at national satisfaction scores in America, for instance, for universities, they're at an all-time low. I think it was something like 40% dropout last year. and there's more educational offerings now. There's more choice. There's boot camps, there's apprenticeships, there's much more online learning, things popping up all over the place. And sometimes educational companies and organizations like colleges or unis are partnering. So you might partner with Coursera or 2U or these big online apprenticeship providers. You might partner with them, but if not, you're going to get competed out by them. So need to make sure that you are offering the best customer service to students, because they're starting to expect a higher level because of all this increased choice. Tone we've kind of spoken about already, and timing we've spoken about already. So that's just a little bit of an insight, and we're getting more and more data on this to prove that certain areas are true, and the bits that aren't working we kind of remove from our process as well. But yeah, every college is different and unique, so that's why we have a big meeting with our colleges at the start of the year before we launch, and we'll have one every year, basically getting them to tell us why they are different, so we can have a different approach to give them that differentiated strategy, vision, brand, and feeling to the student. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining, Sarah Young and Sarah Cooke, both of you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think just to add to that, one of the things most successful for us was part of the risk and the stress checks. And, you know, it's all about building those relations with young people quite quickly. And the impact of the stress check that we ran throughout October, wherefore we could identify students maybe at risk of falling out, dropping off their course, was really impactful and, you know, very positive. And the level of information that some of the young people actually shared through, you know, the WhatsApp Jenny the bot, we were really surprised. You know, we had a young person that disclosed through Jenny, you know, that they were homeless and being kicked out, and therefore they were struggling financially and didn't think they could finish at college, you know, continue at college.
Oh, really?
And therefore that timeliness of seeing that and being able to pick that up and respond straight away. So, you know, this, as you said, there's lots of different ways it can work throughout the journey, and that particular one around the risk reduction and stress check-in was very powerful for us.
Yeah, I love that. We've had a lot of feedback like that from the students. They seem to like the semi-anonymous Jenny chatbot, because having the confidence on the first day to jump into the safeguarding team or ask your teacher, you know, XYZ, it's sometimes quite hard. You know, some of them are still quite young. So yeah, perfect. Gone over a little bit, so we might have nobody watching, but thanks a lot for everybody who did watch, and we've got the recording. We'll chop up a couple of interesting bits and send it out. And yes, Sarah, really appreciate it. And both of you, thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Have a good day.